Hey, good morning, everybody. It's afternoon. It's I think August the 2nd. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A little bit after that. I'm just kind of messing around a little bit, trying to make it home. Hopefully before dark, and turn around and do it all over again. Anyway, I was on the social media for most of the day, and the subject of warfare came up. Somebody posed a hypothetical question that they got from another source on Facebook or one of the other outlets in social media. And the question was, if there was a race war today, who would win between the whites and the black? And overwhelmingly, people automatically said that white people would win such a fight or war. And I just started to find that interesting. I mean, I'm a veteran and all this kind of stuff, and I didn't really do any serious training. There were a couple of guys on one of the forums that have this real extensive background in a lot of different war tactics, and they were making some recommendations, and people just seemed like they were just rejecting. One guy in particular, I won't really give his name. I don't know him, so I don't really want to give his name out and stuff like that. And I guess in case there's some legal reasons why you can't just give somebody's name out in a public forum without their permission. But he was making some suggestions, and people were just rejecting what he was talking about. Now, I'm a veteran of prior service, and I can identify with some of the things he was talking about because I just understood the jargon. I just know that this guy was military. I think even he had posted some pictures of his military days, and he might be active in some different capacities and what have you. I think he has his own consulting business, and that's kind of what he does. That's who he is. I mean, he's one of these guys with a high skill level in military tactics and what have you. So I was thinking oh, okay. My position was see, I'm not really that sure that it would be like a slam dunk in a race war, for example. And my rationale was this. Now, you can imagine what people said. Maybe you might feel, like some of these guys, oh man, if we went to war right now, white folks would slaughter us. They would shoot drones and all this, and we're behind enemy lines, and man, we just cannot win. We cannot win. Well, if you constantly keep telling yourself that, you're probably right. But like this guy that I'm mentioning with this extensive military background and tactics and strategies and everything, and he was like, wait a minute, hold the phone, man, so you just really, realize what he and other people got to offer, and apparently that he's been in situations where he trained people, I just gotta leave that right there. So I'm thinking well, if this guy's saying wait a minute, it might not be such a slam dunk. And I guess my question is, my question was that well, if there was a so-called war, well, how many white folks are gonna join this race war? How many black folks are being on board with that and everything? So I mean, there's too many unknowns. And the assumption is that if there was a race war, all white folks would band together to fight the blacks and everything. I mean, it's hypothetical and somewhat silly. And see, my thinking is that, well, I don't really know where people get off. You got some clusters of folks are with that old Southern mentality. Just think that black folks' place is, maybe out in the field somewhere, working for them and that kind of thing, and are essentially racist. And I'm not opposed to people being racist, to be honest. I mean, if you want to be, left alone and want to be around your own kind, I don't mind, quite frankly. The problem is that I have, when you try to enforce and inflict, your will on me, that's where we got a problem. Hell, if you leave me alone, I can leave you alone, we ain't got no problem. And everything, but I was just amazed at just how scared and chicken shit a lot of brothers were. Oh man, just the idea about fighting or getting into a scrap, which was amazing. I'm almost 60, man, so I mean I can get on YouTube, man, and talk all this stuff, man, but in reality, I'm not gonna be out there tussling with anybody, and wrestling and grappling with anybody. That's not gonna happen. I can't fool anybody, man. Look, I'm a big guy, man. I'm almost 400 pounds. I'm 59, almost 60 years old, and right at 400 pounds, 380 and change, something like that. So, I'm not going to be doing no hand-to-hand combat with anybody, so I don't want to create that illusion and talking all this Rambo talk like in social media, like I'm just so, such a badass. No, that's not what I'm saying here. I don't want to even apply that. But I got some fight in me. I can do with a little bit I can. And I'm kind of well versed with, firearms. I shoot all the time. If I was home, I'd be shooting right now. So what that's saying, like I'm a pretty good shot. So I'm kind of limited what I can do in terms of fighting. And other guys like me who are older, I guess, who are elders, so we're not gonna be out there fighting guys like half our age. Like straight up, that's not gonna happen. And everything. But I'm just wasn't so quick like to write off like what we can do. The point I was going to allude to earlier about white people, like in this apocalyptic, white folks versus black folks scenario. And see, my opinion is like, I don't think all white people are on board with that kind of nonsense. Because they're too busy. They're too busy like raising family. They're working. They got pressure. They catch hell too. Now I can't speak for white folks. I don't know what white people do primarily, but I'd imagine they're not so different than many of us. Now people say, well, white folks, they benefit from white supremacy. Well, they sure did. But, it's almost like we can only take that argument so far. Because if all white people, or the majority of white people, were all about supporting white supremacy, black folks would still be in slavery. And, don't get that twisted, don't get that confused. Now, there was political reasons why the decision was made to end slavery, like in 1865 or whatever it was, and much of it didn't have anything to do with just great love for us. It was about saving the Union. I'm not here to give you a history lesson. You guys can read history for yourself. I'm not telling you anything new. I just assume that you know all this stuff much more than I do. But if it wasn't for the aid of white people, black folks probably still be in slavery, quite frankly. And then during that probably 100-year period of Jim Crow and all that, a lot of participation by whites helped bring that to a close. And we don't like to. That's the one thing about black folks, man. We're so hypocritical because we'll take credit, for anything good. We'll take credit in a heartbeat, but we don't want to give white people any credit whatsoever about the part that they play in changing and shaping the trajectory of their country. And I don't know why that is. I feel like give credit where credit is due. I can't speak for white folks. I don't have a lot of white friends, so I can't be a champion of white folks. So I don't really want to come across like that. But I don't mind saying what's right and what's true and what's just. And white people help change the complexion of America, no doubt about it. But I almost never hear a black person say that. Again, like I'm not trying to wave no white flag and about race and all that kind of stuff because I don't know a lot about white people. I don't really have like white friends per se. I know some people I work with, cool. I got a few white friends on Facebook, for example, and Instagram, like that. Maybe eventually here on YouTube, but I don't really have like a lot of interaction with people, like go shooting, shoot compound bows and all this kind of stuff. And I meet more and more white guys into this, like the hobby I am and stuff, so that's sort of interesting. What I find, like, in a lot of instances, man, like, white folks, man, they really not that much different than anybody else. They go through their own issues, man. Hell, they got problems and heartaches and dealing with badass kids and all this kind of stuff, man, and losses of jobs and all this kind of stuff, man. So they got their own unique set of problems. And I can't speak on it because I'm not really that close to the white community. I'm in the white community, I guess, like in America, a part of the system and all that, man. But I really can't speak. I don't really have a close bird's eye view as to understanding like white folks' pain and sufferings and struggles and everything. But I'll say this much. I say all that to kind of wrap it up and say this, that in terms of a race war type, man, I don't think every white person be on board with that. Maybe not even most, and everything. Now, I can see maybe white people getting together as a matter of survival you know, people just started rolling up on white people, just hurting them and shooting them and killing them. I mean, it would just seem logical. Like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but if you got a group of black guys going around there hurting people like me, then man, we need to link up and hook up. So I get that, and I think, like, you know, that might be what it takes for black folks to get together. Quite frankly, if there's some type of oppression that we're faced with, some type of tyranny that we're faced with, see, then I think we put down a lot of this nonsense that we're doing and everything. But in the event of, get back to like this fictitious possible race war, see, all black folks ain't gonna band together, because all black folks don't agree with some of the ideology that some groups have, like this hatred for white folks or white supremacy and what happened to our ancestors and all that. Hey, you know, I can acknowledge like what happened to our ancestors, man. We didn't get a fair shake. We got a raw deal, and we are where we are. That's kind of it. So I'm not saying forget our ancestors. I'm not saying forget like what we went through as a group, as a collective. But I'm all about moving forward. I think we can learn from the past and move forward. Now, in terms of warfare, I figure, man, you do what you got to do, like with whatever you have and wherever you're in, and whatever you got to work with. That's it. And guerrilla warfare, urban warfare. I'm not about necessarily war, but I meet more and more brothers with like real serious skill sets, and I think it would do us all good if we start learning military tactics, SWAT tactics, things like that. Police on the surface seem like they're pretty much out of hand, and seem like they're executing us. And that's kind of how I see them on the surface, without knowing a lot about the case, these various cases, man. But the outcomes are the same, and there's no reason to come to the conclusion, man, that we have a pandemic on our hands with law enforcement, and they seem to be a problem, and they might need to be dealt with appropriately. And we need to know how to do that. Defending ourselves. I mean, I'm not talking about doing anything illegal or renegade, but you know, I don't care who you are. I mean, if you stepping across the line and start hurting, you know, American citizens, I think American citizens have a right to defend themselves against tyranny. And with that, I'm out, everybody.